Kurt, and I'm with Jim Curry, who is the chief stacker, or we could call you the rocker stacker.
Right.
And we'll get into that in a minute. We're at the Rackspace Leadership Summit, and I guess, why don't we start with that? So where'd that name come from?
The Rackspace Leadership Conference. Well, that's our summit. That's a good question. I think we are, as a company, getting very engaged with our channel partners. We are helping people understand the transition to the world of managed services and the transition to the world of cloud. And I think a lot of our channel partners are really trying to figure all this out and trying to figure out what it means for the base. And so, we use the term leadership. I think is to imply, look, we want our partners to be leaders, thought leaders in this, help their customers and their businesses better understand this. And so we want to be actively engaged in those discussions and helping them with their customers make that transition.
So you're one of the old guys now around at Rackspace, and
Yeah.
I guess somebody has to be a father figure.
Right.
But after 5 years of watching this company grow and being a big part of it, really essential part, now all of a sudden you're moving out of that and you're going into the OpenStack side of it, which is obviously really heavily, or Rackspace is really heavily involved
Sure.
in it, but it's not really, you're not really actually going to be a Rackspace person anymore. You're going to be more of a, into this open source stuff. Why is this so important? Why would you want to make that change, and why is that important to, well, let's start off, why is it important to the end user?
Yeah, so I think that, so I'm going to talk a little bit about cloud and what's gone on in cloud that's been very different, I think, from the world of dedicated, dedicated hosting, or even just dedicated environments, dedicated physical gear. In the old world of Linux and Microsoft, I think that those were the standards that everybody understood. It was very easy to think about when you were making decisions about running a Linux environment internally, or using it with a hoster, or thinking about whether or not you want to run a server in your own environment for your customers. All the technologies were standard. You built an application to run on Linux, it ran on Linux wherever Linux was. And in the new world of cloud, that's not the case. Cloud is in essence proprietary software technology to a great extent. So there's API differences, but I think the biggest difference is there are service differences. A great example is Amazon, great leader in the cloud space in terms of evolving technology and creating awareness. Has built a model that for someone who's used to working on a physical server looks very different. You have to not think about having persistent storage, for example, which imagine a physical server that doesn't have storage attached to it. So small companies who are used to building applications have to think about cloud differently. The bigger problem is, once you think about Amazon, well, how do you think about Rackspace Cloud? Well, it's different too. And how do you think about GoGrid's cloud? Or how do you think about Azure, or any of these different environments? And so there's a lack of standards that I think has made cloud very confusing. Cloud in and of itself is confusing. People don't know exactly what it means, but it's even more confusing when you think about it as a set of different technologies. And so OpenStack was launched with the idea of, we wanted to use our leadership position in the market and our experience in building a cloud. I think we're one of the few that have actually built a cloud that operates at scale, and have done it for a number of years. We wanted to use that experience to help open up the market and create some standards that customers could be assured that the environment that they run in-house, the environment that they run at a service provider, the environment that their partners use, the environments that anywhere that they go would have some level of portability, if not complete portability. And so that's the ultimate goal we want to achieve. And I think that's a very important one for Rackspace as well. We've never wanted customers to fear lock-in with us. We don't want them to come to us for any other reason than they think that we're the right company to work with based on our support model. And now by making OpenStack something that is standard in the industry, customers can know they come to us, and when they want to leave, it's very easy to do, and to go to someone else based on what they think is the right value proposition for them.
And when you say leave, not leave the OpenStack, but leave Rackspace if they
That's
want
right.
to. And so that's a really important question, though, for my audience, because so many of them are asking the question, well, if I start doing stuff in the cloud, how do I know which partner to start with, and do I have to stay with them, and am I stuck with them?
Sure.
And right now, the answer is, to a large extent, without OpenStack, is, yeah, you are stuck with it where you are. Or am I wrong about that?
No. Stuck is a strong word. You have to make an investment to redesign in a lot of cases, and we made a conscious effort at Rackspace to build a cloud in such a way so that it did look like a physical server, and so that customers could more easily port applications. But there are still differences, and to think about consuming and migrating to other clouds are definitely those differences. So that is certainly what we want your customers and your readers to really be thinking about is. We want them to go and ask the questions, how are you promoting portability? How are you promoting standards in this industry? How do I know that you are not trying to build something that's sole goal is to lock me in? And how can I be assured that,
Exactly.
right,
Yeah.
and that's what we ultimately hope to do.
Yeah, and we went through this, and we're still going through this in our industry with the managed service providers. It's, who do you use, for example, as a platform? So do you use Level Platforms, or do you use Kaseya, or do you, and so on, and there's, Enable, and so on. Which are reasonable questions, and what I've been saying to them for, I guess, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, I guess it's been, get your toe wet.
Right.
Stick it in, it doesn't matter. You
Right.
can always change from there, but get in there.
Right.
And they would say, well, which one's the best? And usually my answer was, well, it depends on who has the latest app, because,
Right.
or, who's upgraded most recently.
Right.
But if you're gonna pick on that, then all you're gonna be doing is jumping from one to the next, to the next, to the next.
Sure.
Rackspace is obviously the industry leader right
Sure.
now. They can't go wrong, really, I don't think, in just, jumping in there. They may wanna change from there for whatever reason, but get in.
Yes.
So the OpenStack, it's going to make that whole world easier for them to even do that, isn't it?
Yes, well, let me add a couple things to that. I think those are really good points. First, customers can have assurance now that if they come to us and they run on our OpenStack-based cloud, that they can run that technology in-house that they want to. So they can take the code that we're using to power our cloud, and they can use it to power what they do internally. Which my personal belief, and I think Rackspace belief as well, is that ultimately, while everything, we talk a lot about things moving towards a hosted environment, I think one of the key transition points for that is going to be also making that easy to happen. And I think customers are starting to think about, well, I want to make my environment look a lot more like the cloud too, and operate more like the cloud in terms of technology, in terms of more of a service mentality. And so I think OpenStack is a step in that direction. So customers can use OpenStack internally in the same way they use it at Rackspace. The other thing is they're no longer subject to Rackspace being the owners of the roadmap. We had 25 companies sign up to it when we started. I think we have over 35 now that are actively involved in the project. I'll give you some stats that may or may not be relevant to your audience, but we have on average about 160 active developers in our chat room every day. We have had thousands of patches submitted. We have well over 35 NASA and Rackspace developers. NASA's our partner in this project, who are working on the project, yet 2 of the top 5 contributors aren't employees of either organization. So we're seeing a lot of different community efforts to build this. And if anyone wants to get involved and they have something they want to build and change about it, they can. So unlike proprietary software where you're subject to the roadmap of someone else, that's no longer the case. And I think we're really smart at Rackspace. And I think Rackspace is going to add a lot to this project. Obviously, we launched it, but now we're opening up to anybody else. So Dell and Citrix and any number of other folks are going to apply their knowledge on top of it as well.
So you're kind of passionate about this, aren't you? You can see the excitement with
Yeah.
you. It's great. It's, but now what we have to do is we have to take that excitement that you have and all these other people who are getting involved, and we have to move it down to the channel, because
Sure.
they need to get there. They need to understand it. They need to understand that there's grassroots programs, and they also need to come. It's too bad they're not here, because they can feel the buzz in the air here.
Sure.
And that whole community growing. What's going to happen to Avar if they don't touch the cloud?
Well, I think it's going to be very hard. Look, I think that the end users are using the cloud, whether they know it or not. They are, and I think one of the things that's really changing is people want things to be done instantaneously. I think about cloud. You think about cloud as multi-tenant. There's any number of technical definitions, but I think one of the best definitions of it is it's a service offering. It's one in which someone needs compute or storage or whatever, however you want to define it, made available to them, a place to host their promotional website, and it's instantly made available to them. And sometimes they consume that directly by going out to Amazon and putting a credit card in and getting it and building their website. Sometimes they go to services that have been built on top of someone like Amazon and procure those services. And so they're getting much more used to it. And that is, I think enterprises are experiencing that now with their grassroots, and why they're having to think about cloud, because their end users are doing it, and lower folks in the organization are doing it. But I think it's happening at smaller companies as well. And I think VARs are going to have to go in and really have a story around this. I think that you're going to find that cloud becomes the way that people operate. It's not going to be necessarily defined as just off-premise or on-premise. It will just be defined as both a service model and a consumption model. And I think that they can be leaders in this and helping to define what that should be.
Yeah, I mean, the only relationship right now with what's happening is that, I mean, products aren't going to be important anymore. It's going to be all about, the apps that you're running,
That's
what
right.
you're doing in there, and how expensive it is. And if they're not, especially with their smaller clients, if they're not moving into the cloud,
Right.
I would never, looking at it now, I'm not going to ever buy another server.
Right. Why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you?
I can give myself, 10 good reasons why I should go into the cloud. I can't think of one why I shouldn't. Which is kind of a strange, thing in that it's so black and white, and yet the cloud's not moving there. Let me ask you the last question. We go out to 160,000 VARs and so on. How can we help you get that message out there?
Oh, thank you for that question.
Other than doing this interview.
No, thank you for that question. So certainly we would like for your community to understand the mission and what we're trying to accomplish, and sign on to it. And you would ask the question of, what should they be thinking about when they look at the cloud? We would like people to start demanding it. Look, if they don't think OpenStack's the right project and they think there's better alternatives, great. But start demanding open standards in the cloud. Start demanding that the cloud providers that they go to are making it possible for them to more easily port and make choices based upon what's right for them at given times, and not worry about lock-in. Certainly, if they are interested in learning more about the story and starting to take it to their customers, contact us. I'm Jim at openstack.org. Our website, openstack.org, has a list of all of our employees. Rackspace has made a large investment in hiring people to push the project forward. So we have community managers. I think of them as concierge. Their job is to, when someone comes to us and asks a question of where's documentation on how to deploy this, how do I think about where this integrates into X, we're there to help get those questions answered. So we would love for them to, if they're interested, just engage with us and help us to do that. And then whenever we have these conversations and they bring up to us things that are missing, we take note of it and we go and make sure it gets built. If they want to write it themselves, if one of your partners wants to come and say, I've written a great installation manual for how to deploy object storage, we'd love to have it. So I think there's any number of ways they can do it, but the number one goal is understanding the mission, helping to support it, and starting to go out to the service providers and the partners and demand that they get behind a mission such as this.
Terrific. You know what? I'll put him in the last plug, and I'm not going to say it's a plug for OpenStack, I don't know, or for Rackspace, but it is a plug saying that if you don't move into it, you're going to lose your customers. It's that simple. There is no, it's a black and white decision. Get your toes wet, and the nice thing about Rackspace is that they do have people who are really interested in servicing you. From everything I can see, they will service you to death. So if you want to know where to start, at least give them a call and then make your own decisions.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for the time.